Let me please introduce the two panelists or the two keynote speakers that we're going to have today. Maynard Holt is the CEO of Veriton and an advisory board member for Halliburton Labs, whose advice is fantastic, helping us think about how we run our business. And Senator Bailey Hutchison, U.S. Senator for Texas for 20 years, ambassador to NATO, and the namesake of and founder of the Bailey Hutchison Institute of Energy at University of Texas. Senator, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Okay, thank you, Andres. Welcome, Senator Hutchison. There's so much we could talk about, and so much of today's discussion will be around new energy, new technology, all sorts of wonderful things, as you guys know. I think one of the things the Senator and we wanted to focus on is, energy obviously sits in the context of so many other things. It drives the economy. It provides for security. If you don't have it, it causes a lot of stress. There are lots of issues around energy that the rest of us don't get to talk about all the time. And with the Senator's background as of course, a senator, but also as the ambassador to NATO, she now leads the KBH Energy Center. So she's heavily involved and has a background in so many of the things that really are affected by and are driven by and are related to energy. So I have also had the pleasure of getting to know her, and she's just a national treasure. So can I get a big round of applause for her? She's just wonderful. I want to start in Europe, if you don't mind, Senator, because I was looking this morning. Obviously, Trump's been in the UK this week. If you look, the French government just fell in the last couple of weeks, so they got to, figure it out. Europe is just this messy place, and obviously the war in Ukraine is happening, and you were there right in the middle of it as the ambassador to NATO. Would you mind just talking about Europe, the security situation, and obviously the energy situation is a big part of what Europe is trying to deal with right now. So if you don't mind, I thought we might start in Europe.
Well, thank you. Let me just say a few words before, and I am blown away by this Halliburton Lab opportunity for so many of you here, but even those of you who are not presenting are here to learn something new. I think it is a fabulous thing, and I was just visiting with Reggie DeRoche as well, and what Rice is doing, putting a whole energy hub, innovation hub here is so exciting. My center at the University of Texas is made up of 4 schools. It's engineering, geosciences, law, and business. And what we're trying to do is give students all of the many capabilities to have a career in energy. Because as Maynard said, really, in my opinion, everything that affects our quality of life starts with energy. It's our economic security, and it is our national security. So a lot of people think, in fact, a lot of students think, oh, oil and gas, nah, that's boring. I'm not interested. Energy is so much more than oil and gas. Oil and gas is the reliable resource that has built so much of the economies of the world. But there is so much more. There's more that oil and gas can do, but there's more opportunity now, and your researchers are going to be talking about that for the rest of the day. At my center, we try to show the students all of these opportunities, and we just finished a symposium, and Maynard was very much a part of that, which he always is. He's the best interviewer in the world, and he also knows energy, and he has a podcast and talks with all of the people who are doing the new things in energy. So we're very excited about it, and I hope that we can bring forward some of the new things that you're talking about, that we're going to be talking about, that will produce more reliable, affordable, clean energy. That's what we need. More reliability for the renewables and more reliability for our national security. Now, you talk about Europe. It's a mess, but, you know, we're kind of a mess too. And I think we are in the time of resetting our relationship with Europe. Europe is not nearly as far along as we are in energy and in innovation, although I don't say a whole lot of great things about France, but I will say that they have done a wonderful job with nuclear. They've done a lot of innovation. They've made it more affordable, and most certainly it is the major source of energy for the whole country. But where we've got to have as the long-term goal is that we are stronger together with Europe. And the alliance with Europe and the other major economies of the world is so important to keep our way of life, to keep democracies, to keep freedom of speech, to keep the rule of law. The strong economies of the world must be together, because the adversaries to the Western culture are ones who do not believe in rule of law, who do not have democracy, who don't have human rights. And we've got to be together to face potential adversaries who are despots. I mean, I can't think of the right description for those who would take away the freedom that we have. So it is important that we have an alliance with Europe. Now, Europe is much more diplomatic, much more willing to talk about things, always wanting to talk about things, whereas America tends to be we're going to do this. How are we going to do it? Let's find a way to do it. We are the jump in, get it done, strong work ethic, creative effort country. We've led the world because of that. You know, in America, failure is not bad. Failure is the beginning of the next new thing. That's the way we think of it. But Europeans are much more risk averse than we are. And yet they are our Western civilization partners. So they are, let me say, America is willing to assess a risk and start deterring against it. That's why we are the leader of NATO, because the Europeans won't do that. They'll want to talk about it, and they will not assess a risk, and they won't start deterrence until we have pushed them. Now, I think we are showing them that they can do this too, and that they can be aggressive, that they can also see ahead and start deterring. Europe hasn't spent anything on their national defense until I think President Trump has pretty much strong-armed them into that. It isn't pretty to see that, but they're beginning to come around. And we want them to be strong partners, but we want them to be interoperable partners with us, and that is essential for us to be able to face a China or a Russia or North Korea or Iran, because those are countries that are really showing every evidence that they want to take over to be the strongest leaders of the world. And we can't let it happen.
That was fantastic. I was just thinking as you were ticking through some of the threats, talking about the current world, as you think about the world that you've seen geopolitically in your career, if you were ranking the current environment compared to previous ones, are we really in a more dangerous environment now than we have been? You always tend to think whatever you're in right now, this is the worst. But when you think about like the last 40 plus years, is it as concerning as it sometimes seems, or are we probably forgetting we've been through tougher times? Like, how would you compare this current geopolitical environment to other stress points you've seen in your career?
You know, it's a really good question, because when you're in a bad situation, it always seems like the worst. But here's what I think is different about our past wars, our past troubles. It's that there is more unknown about how we would protect ourselves than ever before. You know, space is now a domain in defense. We have a space force that is part of our defense now, and we don't know everything that our potential adversaries have and what they can do. We know, for instance, from my time working with NASA, that space debris is one of the biggest risks that we have to the space station. And also, we know that, let me say, we think that China has actually, and Russia possibly, has blown up their satellites that are no longer, well, even if they're still usable, but no longer usable, they blow them up to make space debris. And space debris, of course, can hit one of our shuttles, or it can hit the space station. Space debris is very dangerous. But these are things that we've got to start trying to figure out deterrence. I mean, we're just now figuring out deterrence for cyber and hybrid, because all we had was defense. Now we have offense, but it's new that we have offense. So we've got to realize that this is a dangerous time. Unfortunately, our adversaries are trying to have a coalition called BRICS. BRICS is our potential adversaries, and so they're aligned together. They have a lot of capabilities, and we don't know all of them yet. So we don't know all the deterrence that we're going to need. So I feel like this is a very tenuous time for us, because there is a lot of unknown. We don't even know if we're ahead in all respects. In AI, for instance, AI is, oh my gosh, that's changing everything about defense and economics. And we're not sure we're ahead in AI. And there's a lot going on right now that would question that. So I would say this is the most dangerous time because of so much unknown.
I was thinking energy policy and attitudes have been changing quite a lot in recent years. So in 2020, you might call that the the beginning of a real strong decarbonization sentiment. And then when Russia invaded Ukraine, national security really re-entered the picture. And then in 24 or so, AI entered the picture. So in the course of about 5 years, we have been swinging around a lot in terms of how we think about energy. How do we get our allies, to your point, so that we're safer? How do we settle in the West? There's so many different attitudes around energy. How do we settle around a balanced energy policy that provides the best protection for the West? Because there's a lot of different attitudes. The U.S., UK had a lot of nuclear announcements this week, but how do you think about foreign policy and the West and trying to get on the same page in energy?
Well, I think AI is, as you said, it's the greatest unknown of all, because so far we don't know what our adversaries have, and we don't know the capabilities for AI to be used as an offensive weapon, to change orders, to change directions, to disrupt all of our infrastructure. You can do that with cyber attacks, just wipe out the infrastructure, or using biological elements to put in the water or the air and kill people. There's so much out there. And energy, I think part of what you all are going to be talking about are ways that we can strengthen clean energy, make it more reliable, but also how we can, I mean, we're going to be using AI to our advantage. And I'm sure that we're already seeing the uses of AI for efficiency. But how about AI on defense? How about AI on offensive defense, deterrence? I think that it's going to be a major part of everything we do in keeping our economy strong, protecting it from attack, and especially the infrastructure that's going to be necessary to assure that.
I was thinking, you sometimes hear, the United States cannot afford to lose the race in AI. And that sounds very obvious, but you have to pause on it, and because we're going to use it as an excuse to do a lot of stuff. So how do you think about the AI race, the U.S. versus China? Who gets there first? This dynamic, do we have to win this race? Is that absolutely the case? How do you think about it?
Well, I think absolutely we have to win, and we have to know where we stand on this. I think the investment in infrastructure that we're making is money well spent. It's what we have to do to take those next steps. And when China says we don't need NVIDIA, I'm thinking maybe we are ahead. Maybe we are, because I don't think Huawei can compete with NVIDIA. And because I've seen in so much of what China does, they make mistakes, they are sloppy in infrastructure, things don't work after the first tranche, and I don't think we will make that mistake. And I think we've been at the forefront of innovation by doing things right and well, and in freedom. I mean, we can fail and get back up and keep going. But in autocratic countries, if you become too successful, you disappear. And if you aren't successful, you're a loser. I mean, that's a sort of cryptic way to put it, but that's not our way. Our way is, oh, that didn't work. Let's see why. Let's see what we can do to do it right.
Can I ask you, so much of, as we envision the future here in the U.S., we're going to have to build a lot of stuff. We're going to have to do a lot of things, right? We're going to have to get back on the manufacturing horse. Like, there's a lot of reinvigoration going on. The problem with that, of course, is permitting, lawsuits, costs. We have lost our ability to get things done a little bit. What's your level of confidence that we could turn back into the powerhouse we need to be to do all the things we hope to do?
Well, I think your points are the right ones. First of all, the regulatory environment is going in the right direction. I think we have regulated ourselves into oblivion in some areas. And I think not being able to build a nuclear power plant because it would take too long and have too much regulation and too many lawsuits to make it a worthy investment in the private sector. So that's why we're moving to SMRs, the small nuclear reactors, because those can be done in a limited way. Nuclear Regulatory Commission has given now 2 approvals for building SMRs, one in Abilene, Texas, and one in Tennessee. And so that's going to be the beginning, I think, of good, solid, reliable, clean energy that will be affordable once we get the prototypes. And now we have, I think, a regulatory environment that says this is in our national interest. We need to do it. Let's find a way to do it. And I think that will apply across the board. AI, crypto, finance, these are things that are going to need regulation in a responsible way. But over-regulation has stifled our economy, and too many lawsuits. America's too litigious. It just darn is. We've got to get more, handle more. Now, Texas has done that, frankly. Some other states have tried to curb these ridiculous pain and suffering levels so that at least it's affordable if you have a real case, that you can be fair in compensation, but not fly-by-night lawyers asking for $350 million for a car wreck. I mean, you've got to have some sense in litigation, and that's real. But also regulation. We've got to get back to the more entrepreneurial spirit, but I think we are.
I think we're going to come up on time, but I was maybe going to kind of a last area, if you don't mind, which is you had a phenomenal career. You did so many amazing things. You easily could have just said, I'm going to go to the ranch and enjoy life. But you leaned in and started the KBH Energy Center, which I think it shows your passion that energy really matters. Would you mind just talking about why you chose to do that and how pleased you are with the progress and how you're thinking about it over the next 5 or 10 years?
Yeah. First of all, on the KVH Energy Center, I mentioned that we have 4 schools that contribute. So we are trying to show students what the opportunities are. And I think the energy minor makes us unique in America. We're offering an energy minor where you can go for a summer. You take 2 semesters in the summer where you learn about each of the areas of potential energy careers. And that's 4 days a week. And then the 5th day is a trek. It's a trek somewhere to see what's being done in the industry. And I'm so excited that this facility is going to be part of one of our student treks. And that will show some of the research that's being done for students to be able to see that. We have a research center at the University of Texas at the Jake Pickle campus, where there's a small nuclear reactor that is working and the research is being done on it, but it also has the largest computational computer of any university in America. And they're doing the virtual twin of the SMR that is being built in Abilene as it's being built. So there will be a microcosm of this molten salt nuclear reactor. But it also takes a trip to Midland to show oil, natural gas. Also in Abilene, they're building outside of Abilene a data center that will be there for gathering the data that is going to propel AI. All of these things, I think, are essential if we're going to continue to be the innovators and the leaders economically in the world, but also for national security, which is the other area of interest. So I'm excited about it. I'm having so much fun working on it and learning from these other places. I mean, I'm just a mere lawyer, so we in law school used to just have oil and gas. Now we have all of the capabilities for energy law. But I love learning from the engineers, and we have student advisory councils that are so much fun to attend because they are students from each of the 4 schools. And when we meet for the monthly lunches, I always ask for a show of hands, and the students have self-placed themselves with students from the other schools, especially the engineers and the geosciences. They want to hear what they're doing in business and law. And it's exciting to see them exchanging information about their careers. So that's something that I'm just passionate about. I want to mention one other thing, and I was talking to Reggie earlier about TAMIST. This is the point that I want to make. Texas is such a research-rich state, and we value research. And when I was in the Senate, I started it's the Texas Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. There's only one criteria for membership. If you are elected to the National Academy of Science, Engineering, or Medicine, then you are automatically a member of the Texas Academy. And they meet every year, and to hear them go back and forth between the engineers and the medicine or the scientists, they're constantly transferring information, asking questions. I'll never forget the Nobel laureate from the University of Texas in physics stood up and asked Michael DeBakey a question at this. And he said, you know, Michael, this is a stupid question, but, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I mean, this is so much fun. But that is something that I'm telling you about because we value research here. We love our researchers. We love getting to know what they're doing. And then that creates a place for researchers to get the funding for the startups. And what Halliburton is doing right now with this lab is funding people like you who are doing the exciting things. And the Energy Innovation Center that's being put up in Houston is so exciting. And the 2 Nobel laureates, I'll tell my quick story. I just told Reggie, the 2 Nobel laureates that co-chaired TAMIST beginning were Michael Brown from UT Southwestern, the Nobel laureate on cholesterol, and Rick Smalley from Rice, who won when he was teaching freshman chemistry at Rice University. And I'll tell you the story because Michael Brown said, the other co-chair should be Rick Smalley, but I don't know him. I said, okay, well, I don't either, but you get his contact information. And Malcolm Gillis, the president of Rice at the time, was one of the early people that wanted to start TAMIST. So we got Rick Smalley's information. So I called Rick Smalley cold. He answered my call, and I told him about TAMIST, that we wanted this very strict organization of National Academy members, and to talk about research and to be able to exchange information. And he said, he paused and he said, "Senator, I hate organizations. I hate meetings. I don't even like people very much, but I love this and I'll do it." And that was the beginning of TAMIST. And Rick Smalley was so helpful in that. He and Michael Brown just put together the panels. They started everything. And that's what we value in Texas, is innovation, creativity, and the willingness to go out, do something, maybe fail, but come back and do it better and win.
That's fantastic. We should probably end right there. That, and the clock says we should do 5 minutes, 5 minutes of Q&A. We'll just throw this open. If anyone has a question, raise your hand. We got a couple of people with mics. I've always got a handful if we don't see any. I can throw one out to you, Senator, that I find interesting. You've seen collaboration your whole life, right, between both sides of the aisle. This is all about collaboration between academia, business, investing, entrepreneurs. What's a tip for getting great collaboration? How do you get people to, like, let's work together? You're so good at that. How do you do it?
Well, one of there are two things. One is what Rick Smalley said, informing how we operated. My thought was we would have the engineers meet for half a day, and the medicine and science would each meet half a day together in our annual meeting. And Rick Smalley said, no. I am the chemist. I want to talk to the engineers because I want my ideas to be able to be transferred. And that's what he said, that's what collaboration is. It's mixing engineers with whatever your interest is, like in energy, mix the engineers with their different levels, and the scientists that they're talking now about changing the molecules that make up oil into be able to make plastics, to be able to make other forms of energy out of the regenerating the molecules. I mean, so that's taking a scientist with an engineer to put some of those things together. So that's one. The other thing is when you're doing something, the main thing is that you're putting a team effort together. And it's not one person who's going to get the credit. It's the team. And if you have that concept that you want this to succeed for the team, that's what collaboration is. So that, and then have an open session so that no question is stupid. If a Nobel laureate can say this is a stupid question, then no question is stupid. So that means you keep asking those questions. You know, Darren Woods was the honoree at our symposium. He's CEO of Exxon. And he said, if I put out an idea and I get unanimous agreement, I've done something wrong, because nobody questioned anything about it. So it isn't perfect until there is a question. That's what collaboration is.
That's awesome. Just looking around. We've got one. Yeah, right here.
Questions.
Oh, we've
There are
got two
two.
right here. Go ahead. You've got the mic, sir.
Good morning. Senator, I work for a European company, and any advice on how to get them to embrace that Texas get to it mindset?
You know, I think they're coming around. They haven't been as business oriented or focused, but I think they are beginning to see more of that can-do spirit, more more embracing of that work ethic. I think they are. They haven't been. It's been a much more, as I said, diplomatic, let's talk kind of atmosphere. They haven't been very business oriented. In some ways, Europeans have valued social status more than business success. And so, like Margaret Thatcher always, you know, she was always kind of not considered serious because she didn't go to the Oxford and Cambridge, and she wasn't in the high social strata. But of course, she became leader because she took a chance. She challenged the leader of the party because she said he was just dormant, and she won. And she started doing things like giving every citizen the right to buy one share of British Airways. And so when she took the government airline, which was British Airways, and she gave every person a right to buy stock, that changed a lot about UK and the thought of business. So I think it's unleashing the creativity and the work ethic and the success of business being important that is changing Europe, I think for the best.
That was great. We have time for one more.
Senator, you remember the old saying that do you want it? Is it a bill that you want or an issue that you want, right? In debates. And so many policies, hard to get through the electoral politics. But since you're now free of the electoral political fray, which policy areas do you think we really need to make a move on in energy policy, environmental policy, research? You mentioned regulation and permitting is one. Are there some other policy areas you really think we got to make some changes in?
I think that's a really, really good question. I do think energy is now getting a reset. When we're saying to our European allies, don't buy oil and gas from Russia, and then we stop allowing the export of our LNG, you know, that's just not thinking. It's not, I mean, that was just stunning. And so Europe, which was getting ready to make more contracts to buy American LNG, started going to the Middle East. So we've got to, I think, continue on the regulatory framework of more energy, reliable energy, renewables, batteries. My gosh, we've got to have the reliable batteries. And one of the areas of research is finding either new minerals that are easier to get than lithium and more abundant in the U.S., or have a different way of making those bigger batteries. We've got to have batteries if wind and solar are going to be reliable. So I think we're going in that direction. If I were thinking of other places, the new things that are going to need regulation, crypto, there's got to be some way to have at least some reliability of crypto. because some bad person is going to get involved in crypto, and it's going to be a Ponzi scheme that's going to hurt a lot of people. So that's one area where you want to carefully have regulation. You know, Elon Musk said that AI should be open to the public, not for profit. And now it is going for profit. And I think making sure that whatever regulations don't stifle AI, but have a road that is a fair and level playing field. So it's new things that probably, I would say, if I were in the administration, I'd be looking for ways to first attack overregulation where it is now, and then secondly, look at the new things that should be fairly regulated but not squashed.
Fantastic. I'll go back to where I started. You're a national treasure. Thank you. Can I get a big
To me,
round of
that-
applause for her?
I hope that doesn't mean national relic. Thank you.